Welcome, scholars. This is lesson 6-2.2, the Italian Renaissance. Today we're going to jump back before we blaze forward into the Italian Renaissance, just to remind us all that in Italy in the 1300s, we've got a situation where it's not a unified nation. We are talking about city-states. Now, in the 1300s alone, this is 1300 to 1400, there are more than 200 separate states that exist in this peninsula. Not all 200 of those exist at the same time. There's a lot of shifting power throughout this era, but it is a very divided peninsula. Here you can see Genoa, we've talked about, and Venice. They're relatively stable, but a number of others exist throughout the region that are sometimes independent, sometimes ruled by others, but it's just a mess. It is very divided. Now, in northern Italy, several of those city-states became very wealthy by controlling trade across the Mediterranean Sea. The ones that we have focused on so far are, of course, Genoa and Venice. But there are others who are involved in this trade as well. Definitely dominated by Genoa and Venice, and in later times, as we know, Venice. But there's a lot of trade going on, and that brings in a lot of wealth. Enough to say, wallpaper your cathedrals in gold. Italy is doing fairly well. Now, despite this, there's no single power that is strong enough to control all of Italy. Italy is not united. It won't be united for hundreds of years still. And this disunity actually has an advantage for Italy in the long run, and really for the entire European continent. They get to experiment and try out many, many different forms of government to see what really works the best. You have, in Venice, the merchant-led leadership, and in Rome, being a theocracy led by the Pope. We've got a lot of different governments trying out, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Now, a lot of those governments, or at least several, decide to choose either bankers or merchants to be their leaders, to be commercial in nature, to let the wealthy choose their leaders in order to improve and increase their own wealth. Again, here we're talking about Genoa, we're talking about Venice, but we're also talking about another very important city-state, which we haven't focused on yet. That would be that of Florence. Today we're going to be focusing on Florence. The reason we're going to do this is that Florence is the birthplace of the Italian Renaissance. This city-state in north-central Italy, here's a zoomed-up version right here, so you can see it's a little north of Rome, south of Venice. This is going to be where the Italian Renaissance really gets going. And it's going to be going here because of the cloth industry. The cloth industry really booms in Florence. Florence does a great job of bringing in wool and then turning that into cloth and selling that out to the world. Now, for a while, this is through Venetian merchants who are bringing it out to the Silk Road. If you recall, wool was one of those things that Europe produced that was of interest outside of Europe. And that's going to make Florence very wealthy. And the citizens there are going to be depositing their money into banks, and then those banks, through loaning that money out through the rest of Europe, are going to earn interest and earn a lot of money in this way. So Florence really becomes a banking power. As a banking power, the Republican government of Florence, again, think about republicanism here in the sense that mostly just the wealthy get to choose their representatives. This is not a full Republican democracy where everybody gets a say, but the wealthy among them are choosing bankers to govern them. And this fella right here, this is Lorenzo de' Medici. Get used to his face. Lorenzo de' Medici is going to be very influential in the Renaissance as a whole and in Florence in particular. Now, the Medicis, here he is again. Hi, Lorenzo. The Medici family is the most powerful banking family in central Italy. It won't always hold that title, but it is during Lorenzo's life. And as a powerful banker, he finds himself very influential in Florentine society. So here he is again. Look at that. Lorenzo, you keep popping up in our lesson. Maybe you're a guy that we should remember. Lorenzo becomes the ruler of Florence in 1469, so we're well into the Renaissance. Lorenzo de' Medici does not start the Renaissance, but he's going to recognize what's going on and he's going to kick it into overdrive. That's one of the things that he does and is really important. Lorenzo de' Medici. Know this guy. He's going to be important. Now, as Lorenzo the Magnificent, Lorenzo is going to be using his wealth. He's got a lot of wealth. This is a rich guy. He's going to use it to support artists and scholars. Yeah, people like you who are interested in learning more about the world and doing something with that knowledge. He's going to support you to make sure that you can keep doing that. Lorenzo uses this wealth, really tries to make Florence the center of art and scholarship in Italy, not just Italy, that's small thinking, the entire European continent. He wants to bring everybody in. This is his goal. But he's going to do this through a particular lens. You see, Lorenzo is a humanist. And if you recall, a humanist are those people who want to focus on life in the world today. They are not particularly religious people. They don't follow and adhere to strict Catholic teaching. They instead look to before the Catholic Church, to the world of ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And they want to bring back that high level of society, that high level of culture, knowledge, and education. That is the goal of Lorenzo de' Medici. And through this, Florence really does become a center of art and learning. And the best and brightest in Europe, they want to be in Florence. Florence is the place to be. So he's attracting all of this knowledge, all the scholarship, all the best, most intelligent people throughout Europe. They are coming to Florence because Florence is a place to be because Lorenzo is really driving this Renaissance. Lorenzo, you're doing a good job. Yeah, you nailed it. Now, during Lorenzo's life, of course, Florence is transformed. It goes from being just another Italian city-state to being the place in Europe. You the man, Lawrence. You the man. Oh, well, and you're maybe a little bit arrogant too there, okay? You're supposed to be demure there. You're supposed to say, yeah, no, a lot of people helped me out. I had a lot of help of the way. I'd like to thank all the... No, you the man. It's okay. It's okay. Now, how did you become the man? Well, you relied on other people who also had knowledge. You didn't try to do it completely yourself. Lorenzo hired skilled architects to redesign public buildings. This guy down here, you might have heard of him before. He is Michelangelo. He is going to do San Lorenzo, this building down here, not the Duomo. The Duomo is kind of the most famous building there, but this one down here, San Lorenzo, that's Michelangelo. He's going to be coming into Florence and doing a lot of architectural work. He's not the only one. But we also wind up having a focus on outdoor sculptures. Obviously, this one is indoors, but this is one of the most famous sculptures of Florentine Renaissance. This would be Michelangelo's David. They start to appear throughout the city. And this is that all residents can enjoy them. It was very much up until this point, you had to be wealthy to see this art. This art was in private collections and in houses. And Lorenzo and the Florentines, they wanted to make it public. They wanted it to be out there so that everybody can enjoy it. And it's really admirable of them to do that. Now, Florence, however, is going to go into decline. They're going to be the leaders of this Renaissance for about 30 years. But After Lorenzo's death, it starts to fade. See, religious authorities in particular are going to push back against his reforms. He was a humanist, remember. Okay? The idea that life on earth is what's important, not the afterlife. Well, this is contrary to Catholic Church teachings. So they're going to push back. And Lorenzo, I'm sorry, you can't live forever. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, you are dead. That happened. 1492. Very important year there. You passed on. Bye, Lorenzo. So, Lorenzo's gone. His power and his influences are gone. And we have this guy here, this monk, Savonarola. And he's going to become important for a short while in Florentine history. Lorenzo is declared a tyrant by this monk. And the church speaks out against the spirit of the Renaissance. They say, Lorenzo forced you to do all these things. Lorenzo is really a tyrant. Lorenzo made you do all these things that are going to send you to that place that's not heaven. And so Savonarola and others rolled this back. Well, okay, he was a tyrant. Well, he encouraged people to change their lives. So what are you going to do, Savonarola? Oh, you're going to be a tyrant. Okay, you're going to force people to do what you want. They burn his works. This is called the Bonfire of the Vanities. People were asked to burn their worldly possessions. Lorenzo de' Medici has told you that life on earth is what's important. Well, that's wrong. Burn all those things that make you happy. Burn all those things that bring you joy. They distract you from the afterlife. So get rid of them. We're going to burn them all together. They held that bonfire of the vanities. Well, there's going to be a lasting impact of that. Florence, if you recall, had been the place to go. Well, now where are people going to go? Where they're going to go is Rome. Rome is following the heels of Florence, but they can never really compete with Florence until Savonarola takes charge and Florence falls into decline. And now Rome, all of a sudden, is going to be the leader of the Italian Renaissance. People like Michelangelo, a Florentine, is going to move from Florence to Rome and do his most famous works in Rome, including the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Raphael will do his works in Rome. This would be the School of Athens, which we've referenced before. Rome is now the center of the Italian Renaissance. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for today's lesson, and I will see you next time.